we get this video started, I would like to state some things about the video itself. Number one, this is going to be a two-part series. The first part, which is this one, is going to be about my most hated president, and the next being my most favorite president. Secondly, this is not an attack on progressivism, but an attack on a bigot. Thank you, and enjoy. Now you might be asking, why do you hate Wilson? He won the Nobel Peace Prize, passed the 19th Amendment, and made reforms for the middle class, and you would be right in that statement. But my hate not only stems from his time as president, but also him as a person. So right now I'm going to do a little matching game. I'll list off some policies, and you pick what country and leader implemented them. Ready? Alright. Number 1. Imprison thousands of citizens for speaking out against their tax policy in public. Number 2. Imprison thousands of citizens for reading their country's constitution aloud in public. Number 3. Resegregated the military and fired or demoted all black federal employees but one. Number 4. Rekindled vicious anti-Semitic groups from the home and place of business of the country's leader. Number 5. Created a national banking system to subdue market uncertainty that created market uncertainty for the next 100 years that included the country's worst depression in a mere 17 years after its creation. Now, what you might be thinking to yourself is, well, those are nefarious laws that had to have been made under some tyrannical regime like Nazi Germany or maybe the USSR. But here's a little fun fact about every single one of these policies. They were all implemented by the 20th President of the United States of America, Woodrow Wilson. See, Wilson's policies aren't the only reason I and many others dislike him. We also hate Wilson because of his blatant racism, and that was bad for even his time, and his disregard for the Constitution. Wilson slammed the Declaration of Independence and Constitution multiple times. Wilson was as hungry for power as a stoner with the munchies. He did not believe in checks and balances or the separation of power. Wilson created the Committee on Public Information, which was basically a ministry of propaganda. He censored the press and made it a crime to criticize the government with the Sedition Act of 1918. Wilson praised the movie Birth of a Nation, which is a movie that quite obviously glorifies the KKK. And not only that, but after he had a stroke, he left his wife in charge of the country and did not even tell the public. Wilson also basically prolonged the First World War. The Germans were trying to get peace talks in the early stage of the war all the way up to 1916. Then Wilson intervened. His blundering into World War I would encourage the Allies to impose draconian measures that came with the Treaty of Versailles against Germany that would inevitably lead to World War II. And not only all of this that I have listed, but he was also a lost causer. Being raised in Virginia to a father who became more and more pro-slavery and pro-South, it's easy to see why Wilson was the way he was when it comes to the lost cause and pro-South sentiment. Now, I will be talking about the 14 points and the failure in them. 14 points were a recipe for World War II. Wilson figured, hey, there's only a few ethnic groups in Europe and they all live in homogeneous groups. So, Wilson figured that the best way to maintain peace was to redraw the borders based on ethnic groups. And I will give Wilson some credit here. He did, come back to himself on that and say that was pretty stupid, but still, why did he even think it in the first place? And at the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, Wilson believed the League of Nations was his best and most important point, and that allowed Britain and France to play him, I guess you could say. They did this by telling Wilson that in exchange for allowing them to do whatever they want, they would let the League of Nations stay in play, and in allowing Britain and France to do whatever they wanted, Wilson also allowed for the Second World War to happen. Now, it's not only all of this that I have mentioned throughout the entire video, it is Wilson's imperialism. Wilson invaded so many countries, Latin American countries, Mexico, I think like 9-10 times, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, etc. Cuba, I think even. Wilson was a racist imperialist set on the goal to spread American ideas. I put that in quotes. So yeah, I did not want this video to get too long, and that's where I'm going to end it. nobody wanted me to hear me ramble on about a president a lot of people hate. So yeah, this has been the Interwebs Historian, and goodbye.